If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to dogmanencounters.com/podcast. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for another live stream episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. Really appreciate you being here. I hate to say this, but tonight's guest shouldn't even be here tonight. The reason why I say that is he was featured on episode 596, and on that show he came on and told us about several Dogman encounters he had had. They shook him up, but nothing like an encounter that he unfortunately had last night. Because of the encounter last night and the intensity of it, he's not doing all that well right now. He's queasy, he's nauseous. I actually told him we shouldn't even be doing this show, but he wanted to soldier on. Credit to him. Most people wouldn't be up for doing that. But yeah, he deserves a lot of credit for that. And without any further ado, let's bring him in here now. Tonight's guest is Patrick. Patrick, thanks so much for coming back.
Of course, Vic, absolutely.
Yeah, under the circumstances, like I told you, you shouldn't even be here. But if you're sure you want to soldier on, we can definitely do that.
I've never been one to give up that easy, so it'll be quite all right, I think.
Okay, well, if it gets to be too much, please let me know. We can always reschedule to finish this up. But having said that, if you're sure you're okay, for the people who missed episode 596, please tell them about yourself.
Well, my name is Patrick. I was born in New York, lived most of my life there, but I've lived the better half of my life in Texas. I'm 39. I've got 3 kids. I've helped raise a few other kids into productive adults that didn't belong to either of us. But you don't turn away any child that needs it. Just been, life isn't always the easiest, but we're still making a go of it regardless.
Yeah, that you really are soldiering on. For any of you out there listening who were here for episode 596, as you'll remember, I created a GoFundMe page for Patrick to help him out of a tight jam. Well, he was blown away almost as much as I was by the response. I can't thank you guys nearly enough for all the help, all of your contributions to him. You've worked wonders. The last time I checked the tally, I think it was a little over $2,000, and the goal was $700. So like I said, I can't thank you enough for all the contributions you've made. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And before I ask you for an update on your current situation there, Patrick, would you like to say anything about that?
Of course. First of all, I don't know if I have the words to express my gratitude. Asking for help has never been easy. I'm sure many people can relate to that. And I've always been one to, that jumps in and helps others, even when I don't have the resources or whatever. But I always believed in living my life in such a way as if you see a need, you fill a need. And I've always been that way. And so I'm more used to giving a hand than receiving the help. So for everyone who did, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I couldn't say thank you enough. And that's the God's honest truth. And thank you guys again. And I was overwhelmed and overjoyed by all the support. And even my kids, they were keeping track of it. And I just want to say thank you all. And if there's any way I could ever repay it, I will. So, and I always believe in paying it forward. So thank you again, everyone.
I told you they're amazing people. They really are. Having said that, now we've brought everyone up to date on that with the thank yous for their contributions. Please bring us up to speed on how you're doing right now, what the status of that process is of appealing the eviction.
Well, so as far as the appeal goes, we had that last Tuesday to be able to we did file the appeal, but they wanted X amount of money into the registrar, and that can still, I mean, you can still lose it. And really, all it was going to do is just buy us a little extra time to figure out what we're going to do. But I spoke to the manager of the property, and on that Tuesday, and I showed him the GoFundMe, and he was surprised and taken aback, and he was willing to work with me. I've given him pretty much every dime that's in the account, and they're willing to work with me. So I'm just doing what I can to continue working off what we owe and trying to keep the roof over our head. So far, the mortgage company hasn't. I mean, they're calling. I mean, they call every day, but they haven't.
Hey, Patrick, not to interrupt you, but I'm hearing a loud clicking sound. Are you doing that?
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's just. I didn't mean to do that. That's just the earpod case.
Okay.
Sorry. Nervous
Sorry
habit.
to interrupt you. Please continue.
But anyways, so far, they're willing to work with us, and that he's willing to work with us. I don't know about corporate, but how corporate is the bottom line over people. But so far, we're hanging in there, and as I said to Vic earlier, it kept us from having the door slammed shut in our face for good. So there's still a fighting chance, and just got to work my way back and dig ourselves out of this hole. So again, thank you everyone for your contributions. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, like I told you, they're amazing people. They really are. Just when you lose faith in humanity, something like that happens to you, and it shows you that there are really good people out there still.
I agree. I've never lost faith in humanity. There's, like I said, sometimes I can even tend to overextend myself, trying to help others. But and I've been criticized for trying to help people and taking in kids that and like fostering them and doing what I can for others. And I've been, like I said, I've been criticized by other family members, and saying, "Oh, we don't have the resources," but it's I say no matter what, you'll be okay. And I can't go past the cry for help, no matter what. So like I said, if you see a need, fill a need.
You're a good man. In the dictionary next to the word benevolent, there's a picture of you. If I remember right, didn't you say that you also mow people's lawns who need help with that?
I sure do. Actually, I just did 3 of them today.
Wow. You're a good
I've
man.
got like
You really are.
6 more to go. Yeah. So, well, it also helps keep the lights on too. So.
Wow, that's awfully impressive, especially out there in this heat. Not that easy. Well, unfortunately, Patrick, you had an encounter just last night. That's what I was referencing when I was talking about you being so nauseous and queasy. If you're ready, if you're sure you're going to be able to handle it, please tell us what happened. Give us every last detail that comes to mind.
You got it. So whenever I take my dogs out, again, I take them off the property because we don't really have much of a yard around here, and I like to take my dogs to a place where they can just run around, and we can have a good walk for like at least an hour or two. And I do it twice a day, and we have longer extended walks at night. So last night, I want to say it was 11:30 ish, give or take. It was, I guess it's kind of earlier than our usual walks, but I wasn't about to do it a second time after this. So I went to where I normally go, which is where I've had these last 2 encounters back in July. And I park on the far side of this block that's there's the streets are made, and there's some street lights, and to the left side there's a pasture. There's a cow pasture, and to the right they've been turning, terraforming, and they've made these, blocks where they're going to be putting these houses, but there's no houses there just yet. There's houses that are built, about 2 dozen of them or so, in the surrounding area, but I go to the furthest furthest spot away from all that, and that's where I had the two previous encounters. Well, last night there was a lot of activity. There's these houses that are on this one back street, Troy Road. There's several houses back there that back up to these I guess these small woods and back straight up against where they're building these new homes. And dogs will these dogs usually go nuts back there. And last night, I mean, I can hear the coyotes were out, and I haven't heard them in a while. And it sounded like there was a little bit of some fighting, and it even sounded like some squealing, it sounded to me like almost as if there was like a pup getting tore up. And all this is taking place about maybe 500 to 600 yards east of where we're walking around. Maybe I mean, yeah, that sounds about right. And I can hear them going off. And now, normally, when I pull up, at night or wherever, I always sit and listen for a bit. It depends. Like, I can just to feel out the energy of the surrounding area. You can kind of get a feel for like the animals in the area, or not even just animals, but like I said, you can get an overall feeling, the vibe of the general area. And it's something. It's like a sense of whether or not like you feel like it's a good spot to go, or if I need to move on to someplace else. And I mean, it felt kind of eerie from the beginning, and but it wasn't too bad. I had my night vision scope charged up, and my flashlight. I mean, it wasn't that great, but the night vision scope helps. And when I was out there, like I was, of course, I'm scanning the horizon, and just to see if I can see any activity. Sometimes I can pick up a coyote way off out there, or bobcats. We've got plenty of those in our area, and but there was really nothing. They're pretty sure most of the whatever's going on is back there with these dogs. And but there's also this other strange noise that I can't quite put my finger on, and I swear I've been thinking that it is some type of strange bird, the way it sounds, but I really don't know what it is. And I've heard him, multiple nights. Sometimes it's just one, sometimes it's two, sometimes even three. But last night was just one of them. Now, where I park, they said it's basically two, like a large block, I guess, of just basically grass before they, start putting foundations and all that of these big houses and stuff. And there's a street light at each corner, and so it's a bit raised up, and probably about 15 feet from like the bottom street there. And so we're walking along there, and I'll let the dogs do their thing. We normally, I like to walk all the way across the subdivision that they're building, and just get a good walk in with the dogs. And by the time we get back to the car, they're pretty tuckered out and gonna nap for a good long time after they drink some water and they pass out. But I said sometimes I just you get the feeling where maybe that's not such a great idea. So I let them do the thing in the area where we're at. We stayed right around the car, within 100 yards or less of the car, and I get them loaded back up, and so we're about out there for maybe 25-30 minutes. Like I said, it's usually a bit shorter than what the walks normally go for. But it just had this anxious feeling. Now the cow pasture, I can see that there's more stakes in the ground, and they've been doing a lot more terraforming in the surrounding area, which is, like I said, it's kind of sad to see them knocking down all this beautiful grassland and they're turning it into these houses. But that's progress for you. Um, but so now, where I first okay, so let me back up. I get the dogs in the car, and I get in the car, and the windows are rolled down and stuff, and I'm just listening to dogs panting. But like I said, it felt kind of strange the whole time, and so I got back out of the car, and I just decided I felt like just looking around again, um, and checking the area, and I walked over to where I had seen that very first gray one in this it's it's at the bottom street there, and there's this broken, like, broken stone path, and manicured grass, and then there's kind of like wild grassland beyond that, and a small creek area and some trees. Like I said, this area was a cow pasture before these houses were being put up, and they're still keeping some of it, I guess, for at least for now, and they're developing it in parcels. And so there's a street light in this one section that's probably about good 350 yards away. But so when you first pull into this new subdivision, when you pull in from the roundabout, there's houses on your right hand side and a couple of streets, and then there's this a turn off on your left hand side, and it dead ends. It goes maybe like 80, 90 yards, and it dead ends right there. And it looks very nice. We've got a very nice light there, and a little cobblestone path with a bench, and they have like these little um, looks like a thing where you can put like books and stuff in, where people donate books or whatever. And now, like I said, right there after it cuts off, it goes into the grassland again, and there's a bunch of trees, and there's acres, probably like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, 100 acres or so. I'm not really sure. At least 100, another 100 acres that go beyond that. I know it goes for at least almost a quarter to maybe a half mile of nothing but grassland in that direction. And so so keep that in mind. So there's that turnoff, and then there's a spot with that light where it dead ends. And now I'm further on past that. I'm about 300 yards away, and I'm standing in the this uh, darker area that's in between these trees where I saw the very first dogman. And as far as the dogman goes, the activity has been, I guess, quiet, and I've been going there still, like, pretty much every day, because this is what we're used to, and it's a good place to let the dogs run around. And I'm not really big fan of walking around with a leash. I just want my dogs to do their thing for themselves, get their energy out. So I stood up, and I walked down there, and I'm just scanning the area around me. I'm scanning the.
Oh no, you're breaking up there, Patrick. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, right about where you said so, you were walking around. That's where you broke up. Can you go back to that point?
Sure, sure, I got you. And, where so I'll walk around, and I scan the tree line, and um, I look across this field, and this and I look past the creek, and I look all across this field, and it kind of rises up a little bit, and I can see where that light is from that dead end area. And this so the previous encounters I've had, yeah, I mean, especially that first one was really freaky. I mean, you see this massive 900 pound beast come out and just kind of sit there and look at you, from the creek bottom. I mean, that one was more terrifying than the other two. Like I said, the ones in July I saw a gray one in this creek area in the dark, kind of like behind some brush, and then there was a big white one that was sitting out near the exit uh, when I turn off the street to go up to exit the subdivision, and it was laying there kind of lazily. So far, the encounters I've had were relatively passive, benign, like I said. But this one, this one, it scared the crap out of me. like so I'm looking through the night vision scope about 300 yards away in that area where the light is at, and I can see what looks like a very large coyote, and I can kind of see it like popping up a little bit, like on 2 feet, but not raising up completely. And like I've heard in so many other encounters before, where like say a hunter has a dogman in their scope or something in their scope, a cryptid, something that they're unfamiliar with, and then this thing snaps their head and turns and looks at them and like almost looks at them through the scope, looks like it's looking right there dead in their eyes. Well, that's what this one does. And I guess if you stare at something long enough, whatever it is you're looking at, it's going to know that you're looking at it, and it turns its attention towards me. Now, if it was just something I observed from a distance, great, but it wasn't like that. And this is where, like, the reason I feel sick and this nauseous feeling is because I've been thinking about this all day. Like, I've had these constant dumps of adrenaline to my system, to where, like, where you can feel it in your body, like almost wanting to stiffen up. And my back's been injured lately, and like almost to the point where like it feels like my back wants to stiffen up again. Like I can feel it, and that like this was been this is what has got me in this nervous state. So I'm looking at this, and it had the markings. I would say kind of similar to a coyote as well, but I was at least maybe 4 to 5 times bigger, give or take. And like I said, it was popping up, and it stopped, and then it was looking off to its left into the grass area, and it snapped its head towards my direction, and it started running towards me on not on 2 legs, but not on 4 legs either. It was running towards my direction on 3 legs. I can see that it's one of its back legs. It was, I don't know if it's lame or what, or injured. I'm not sure, but I can tell it was running on the 2 front legs and one of the back legs, and it was moving quickly. And at that point, like that's where like all that just that shock. It was like as if lightning just zaps right through your body, and my skeleton had jumped out of my skin and took off running, and I was stuck for a second. Then I had to go catch up with the rest of myself. Like my soul had just jumped and took off, and that was absolutely terrifying. I now the car was only like 30 feet, 40 feet behind me, and I'd like to drive my windows down at night. All my windows were down. I can tell the dogs were like they were onto something. Like they were like looking around, and I can tell they were anxious. But I mean, I got in my car, and my car was already running. It's a hybrid, so you don't even hear it if it's just sitting there and idle. And I just pushed the gas and I took off. Normally, I just let it reverse back, and I reverse down that little slope, and then I'll pull forward and go. But I took straight forward, and I saw through the back window. I also even put my head out the window and looked back as well. And so this thing had come screaming, hauling across. But the way it ran, that's what really freaks me out more than anything. Is because it was like its back was all humped, like hunched, like like when a cat is trying to get big and intimidating, and like to another animal, like another dog or another cat, where its back kind of goes up into this arch. It was running like that, and its head was low, and his back was arched. You see its hair, his hair was like flared out, and it was tearing off across the field my direction. And as I had pressed on the gas and started going, and it only took me maybe a second or two to get into the car and to push the gas and start going. And by the time I had done that, and when I looked back in my rearview mirror, this thing was already at that point where I was just standing, right there at the edge of the darkness. It didn't cross into the manicured, fresh, the green grass that has been planted, and that crushed stone, path there. It didn't cross over into that. It literally, it didn't it didn't come into the light, but it was right there at the edge, and it was just like if looks could kill, like this thing was just drilling, boring a hole into my soul or something. It was, it, I don't know what was worse, the way that it stood there staring at me, and like at that point it popped up on 2 feet, um, and so I like with its mouth was slightly agape, like it was kind of panting, but just the way that it ran, it was so freaky, and I don't know if that was because of something was wrong with its leg or what, but like I'd never seen something like run like that, and that was, boy, I'm telling you, like that right there, it was like an absolute shock to the system, and again, like it had basically like the coyote color like markings to it, and I don't think it was the gray one that I'd seen before. I'm pretty sure this one was different. And again, all this takes place with the big power lines that just run for miles. And as we know, anyone who's listened to big Sasquatch and Dogman stories, like a lot of these areas where these power lines stretch and go for miles are kind of like a, not just it's basically a highway for anything that's out there in the wild to kind of like have a unencumbered path through to other areas, and it's literally like right in the midst of all that, and and now mind you, where I'm sitting right now in my backyard, I mean my fence is right here in front of me, which there's plenty of slats that are missing, because it's an old fence, but it's all this from where I'm sitting at, the way the crow flies is maybe less than a mile. Like those multiple Dogman encounters all took place less than a mile, except for the very first one. That was maybe like 3.5, 4 miles from where I'm at. But yeah, and that was I mean, I'm telling you, my bones jumped right out of my skin and took off without me. I had to catch up, and seeing it standing there at the end, but just the way it ran just really freaks me out. And again, it just reminds me of the way a cat kind of bows up to get big and intimidating, and but it ran all the way across the field like that. Like, well, at least for the few seconds I saw it coming towards my direction after it looked at me, and then I tore off. But it was started running off towards my direction that way, with, and like I said, one of the back feet weren't touching the ground, like it wasn't swinging its leg. I don't know if something's broken or what, but it sure looked at me as if I'm the one who had maimed it, which I mean I'm not, but who knows how they think. I don't know, but that one scared the daylights out of me. I really couldn't sleep much last night at all. Um, it's been it's been on my mind all day long. I've got to take the dogs out, and I don't want to go back there. I know that they're going to be tearing that whole pasture down. Like I don't really even want to go back there until after that whole area has been bulldozed. Which I hate seeing trees and nature being torn down to for progress of these homes. Like I like progress, because where I come from, New York, there's so little development there. So you have the beautiful nature, but at the same time, there's no middle ground of progress. So all these old towns will, eventually die, wither away because there's nothing there because all these people are very much against any development. But at the same time, like, so I like development, but I really like nature too, especially when I can take my animals out there and my kids and enjoy it. And plus, there's got to be a home for all these animals that live out here, and that's being stripped away. But honestly, like I'm good with not even going. I'll be good until that whole forest is, nothing but just piles, dirt that's been flattened out for houses. Like that scared the crap out of me. I'm sure that'll change eventually. Probably won't even be that long, but right now it's still very fresh, and I want nothing to do with it. And that scared the daylights out of me. I mean, like I said, I've had every time I think about it, I'm just getting these dumps. I can feel it in my system. That spike of adrenaline, and then all that kind of like you feel flush and it just dumps, and then you feel just kind of drained and kind of stiff. And I've been feeling that all day. And I was going to talk to my son about it, but because I talk to my kids about everything, but I really felt like that probably I don't even that probably wouldn't be a good idea. I don't want to fill their heads with images of these things. And again, last night after I'd gotten home, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going outside of the back patio, and I just listen, and which I do often. Sometimes possums come through sometimes. And I just want to make sure that no coyotes or bobcat come through my back fence there to, harm anyone's animals, because it's happened before. But I heard something walking around back there, but it never showed itself. Now, again, it could be just possums, and so it could be all, me just freaking out from previous. But something at some point eventually did come up onto my back porch, because I had this tarp kind of like blocking the sunlight. Like I set it up on my back porch there, so that way it was covered. And I know the sun eventually makes the tarps kind of brittle, but something had climbed up and looked like it was trying to go to my roof. And there's actually a couple of, let's see, I'm looking at it right now. There's a couple of tears from, looks like where feet had went into. Yeah, so there's like two initial, and then there's another couple. Looked like something had tried climbing up and going up the tarp to climb. Maybe I thought it was more of a stable roof, but it was pulled pretty tight. Because I got it screwed to the side of the house, and it comes off at an angle, and it looked like something tried climbing up that, and it actually tore through the tarp there, and it obviously didn't make it to the roof as far as I know. But that wasn't there last night when I was coming outside. I didn't notice that until sometime this morning. So yeah, that's what happened last night, and that's had me on edge. And the neighbor's dog on the other side of the fence, maybe about 150 yards away, they're pretty good at alarm, because they kind of just run loose and barks at everything that goes on back there. And so things usually go on back there, and I hear them going off all the time, but they're actually already started kind of early tonight. But yeah, that's what kind of happened just last night.
For everyone listening, so that you know, this is the first time I heard about that encounter that he had last night. Didn't hear anything about the particulars until just now when you heard it. With that in mind there, Patrick, would you like to go grab something to bring back you can sip on, just to maybe reset? Because if you can have a little reset there, once you do get back after your little break, I don't want to ask you questions. I want to just have a little talk with you about that experience.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
Take your time. Go ahead and do that. And yeah, you get back when you get back. Please don't rush.
Okie dokie. I appreciate it, Vic.
You're welcome. While Patrick is doing that, is there anyone in the live chat that has any general questions about Dogmen I could answer for them? I'm going to keep an eye on that live chat and see if any pop up. So far, no luck. Well, I'm going to take an opportunity while I'm waiting on some questions to pop up to promote my new Dogman podcast. In case you didn't know about it, I do have a second Dogman podcast now. It's not available on YouTube. It's only available in podcast format. You can listen to it however you listen to podcasts. If you don't have a favorite podcast app that you use to listen to podcasts, an easy one is iHeartRadio, or if you use Spotify or Spreaker, you name it, it's on all the podcast apps out there. But the show is called Dogman Tales. Tales is spelled Tales, reflecting the fact that all the stories in it in that podcast are fictional. They're not real. But yeah, if you listen to it, I think you'll like what you hear if you like fictitious stories. I've gone on the record before. I've been frustrated when people come forward with stories about dogmen that are fictitious, that they present as being factual. But as long as they are open about the fact that they're fictitious stories, I don't have any problem with that at all. So that'll probably answer some questions right there for anyone who's wondering about that, which I've already gotten asked that question quite a few times already. Let's see. It looks like I've got a few questions popping up. Got one here from Blood Viper. He wants to know, why do they enjoy causing terror? Well, some people would tell you that dogmen are all demonic in nature, and that might be the case. I mean, there are so many credible eyewitnesses out there who've reported witnessing things, experiencing things that would point soundly towards that being the case. So maybe the ones that do like to torment us are demonic in nature. I don't really know. That's not really a question I can definitively answer for you. All I can do is basically guess. But I'm kind of in the mindset that there might be three different kinds of dogmen as far as categories. You might have some dogmen that are supernatural in origin. Some might be actually aliens, and the other kind might just be flesh and blood animals that are out there in the forest trying to make a living. I mean, after all, back in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan meat eater, he referenced this encounter just a bit ago. That was the first documented dogman encounter. So maybe that's what that was. We definitely didn't have the ability to create any test tube dogmen back then. There's also another kind of dogman that might be created in a government laboratory. Some people say all dogmen fit into that category, but that couldn't be because, yeah, again, back to that 1887 encounter, we didn't have anything approaching the technology to do that back then. So I hope that answers your question there, Blood Viper. Let's see. Let's get another one. This one's from Bang Bang. And Bang wants to know if I think Patrick is marked. Well, I don't know if there's any such thing as being marked by dogmen. Some people seem to definitely draw their attention more than others. Most eyewitnesses only have one dogman encounter. It just seems like it's the norm for a dogman eyewitness to have repeating encounters because there have been so many people on the show who've had that. But if you look at the averages, if you look at the numbers of people who've come on who've only had one encounter, they really outnumber the ones who've had multiples. So something to keep in mind. Let's see. Going to find another question. And yeah, if you have any questions for me, please type them in all caps. Looks like Brandon Whitehawk wants to know, Vic, would you consider doing a show where you take us behind the scenes on how you create Dogman Encounters episodes? Well, there isn't any wizard behind the curtains type thing going on. It's pretty basic. I just wait for Dogman reports to come in. Some days I get as many as, well, I don't bat an eye if I have 3 or 4 encounters come in one day. Some days when it gets crazy, I've had like 7 or 8 come in. But just basically the encounters come in, they're reported to me, and then I contact the eyewitnesses. I schedule a time to have a phone consultation with them. I talk with them at length about their encounters. And the first order of business is to make sure they're okay. And then after I've made sure that they're okay, at least to the best of my ability, because you can help some people more than others, then if they want to come on the show, we schedule the time to record the show. There's never any pressure to come on. But if they do actually want to come on, then I schedule the recording with them. And then it's either I let them choose whether they want to do it as a live stream or as a pre-recorded show. And that's basically all there is to it. It sounds like Patrick is back. Are y'all set and ready?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
All right. Well, Patrick, I talked about this a little bit when we had that first conversation regarding Dogman. Understand that when it comes to the shell game, they've got that game mastered. They really do. They're just masterful at thinking that they want to accomplish something over here, and when in fact, they've got a totally different goal. That's what I'm getting at here. I've got no doubts. I can't guarantee it, but I've got no doubts that Dogman that you saw last night knows where you live, has probably been to your property, has probably watched you. Now, at first glance, that can seem to be really bad news. But if you take a step back and really analyze it, it's actually good news. Because if it knows where you live, it didn't harm you. It's probably seen you multiple times, but never has it harmed you. So these guys, I mean, they'll go miles out of their way to make you think that they're going to kill you at any opportunity, or I should say, end you at any opportunity. But their actions prove that the contrary is actually the case. They just do what they do to get a response out of you. They don't want to kill you. I use this example all the time. If you played the Dallas Cowboys, if you had the best high school football team play the Dallas Cowboys 100 times, they played 100 games, you know, it's just common sense that 100 times out of 100, the Cowboys would beat that high school football team. Even though it's the best high school football team, the Cowboys would win 100 times out of 100 times. Why is that? It's obviously because the high school football team is so outclassed. It doesn't matter if the games are in summer in the rain, summer in the snow, summer in the heat of summer. It just doesn't matter because the Cowboys outclassed that high school football team so much that the high school football team doesn't have a chance. I talked to so many eyewitnesses who are caught dead nuts to rights by these things. And then they tell me about how they got away from the Dogman. You will never get away from a Dogman that's got it in its head that it actually does want to get you. They're just charlatans making you think. They're masterful at making you think, like I said, that they want to end you. When, I mean, after talking with thousands upon thousands of eyewitnesses who basically experienced that, it's just the normal thing to think that the Dogman is out to try and eat you or something. Well, surprise, surprise, these eyewitnesses walk away without a scratch. Now, again, I've said this countless times. I'll say it again. I'm never going to say that dogmen are safe to be around any more than I'm going to say that a horse, a camel, a pig, a goat, or cattle are safe to be around, or people are safe to be around, because there are deviant examples of any critter out there. So why should dogmen be different? Why should Sasquatch be different? You will find dangerous ones, but the numbers clearly point to the fact that these guys are not wired by nature to try to rip you apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself. Because if that's how they were wired, I wouldn't have spoken with 3,000, 4,000, or maybe more dogmen eyewitnesses over the years who were allowed to leave their encounters without a scratch. So the reason why you feel nauseous and queasy, it's totally understandable. I mean, you are human after all. Your emotions, is pretty predictable how you're going to respond to an experience like that. It's the whole reptile brain thing. When you have such a primordial experience like that, it pushes buttons that go all the way back to our reptile brains. So it's natural. It's going to affect you the way that you're affected. But in your calm times, when you can actually reflect on everything, take a step back and really take a good look at how everything played out, and try not to let your emotions steer your line of thought, it'll come to you that, okay, well, yeah, I mean, this only happened 3-4 miles away from home. I've already had all these other encounters with these dogmen. There's a strong possibility that dogman has been here before. It has watched me. It didn't hurt me, but it has watched me before. So it didn't hurt me then. I guess everything is okay. Now, again, it's going to take you time to process this in a healthy way, so it's not wrecking you. Because yeah, I guess wrecking, that's a good way to sum it up. It's going to take time. But if you remember those 7 magic words I shared with you, the fact that it didn't want to hurt you, clearly, you'll be okay. That night, I can understand why, seeing what you saw, you would think that it really was out to get you, but for the reasons I mentioned just a bit ago, I really don't think it was. Now, having said that, before I ask you any questions, do you have any questions for me that I can answer for you?
Well, have you heard of anyone who has had a dogman tap on the window and they immediately, give them a face full of lead? Because, man, maybe, I mean, I don't want to shoot into my neighbors' homes or anything like that, but the second something starts tapping my window, and you can tell between the finger and that nail sound, tapping on there, boy, it's going to be hard pressed for me to not just dump a whole mag into his face, and maybe then it might want to hurt me. But what I don't understand is like the way it took off, and like it acted as if I'm the one who had heard it. I mean, I know I didn't, but just saying, like, and I know what you're saying is somewhat comforting, knowing that these things are so powerful and they can just rip through your home if they really wanted you, and they obviously don't do that that we know of. Same time though, it's also not all that comforting, knowing there's not a whole lot we can do if they really wanted to, and I'm sure there may be the case here and there that because there's the dead men tell no tales. But where my house is at, it's literally like an unencumbered, mile or less from where this thing was standing when I took off. And again, like, I don't really trust a whole lot, anyways, as it is. And I don't want to say I'm a paranoid person, but I guess maybe I'm probably paranoid. But especially, these last few years, I've been in that hyper vigilant state, and I don't know. It's enough to set your hair on just to stand, and it's terrifying to think about. And I really certainly hope that it doesn't want to come creeping around my home and tapping on the windows, and because I don't know what kind of mess we'll be in at that point. And but yeah, I know if it really wanted to get to us, it could have. And why it stood there and didn't go cross into the light. Who knows if it's evil or if it just has that conscious brain that likes to freak people out. Just has a very dark sense of humor. I mean, they must be having a good laugh doing all these things to freak people out. And I mean, could it be that they feed off people's energy and fears their food? But either way, those things they have the weaponry, tools to dismantle, to shred, to tear, and if they're not just feeding off of our fears, they got to be eating something, and it's just not a pleasant thought to think about. Especially as I'm sitting back here, I'm hearing things creeping along on the other side of these because there's like a lot of tall grass separating on the other side of my fence. Again, there's probably possums, hopefully, but the dog's been going off, and but I can hear something actually creeping along, maybe like 25 feet from where I'm at right now. It's actually kind of creeping me out some.
Oh, I'm sure it is creeping out. To answer your question about the tapping on the windows, yeah, that's their MO. They do that all the time. If I had a nickel for every time, it's kind of funny. When I talk with eyewitnesses, it always makes me laugh. I don't laugh out loud, but I kind of quietly chuckle. If I had a nickel for every time one of these eyewitnesses I speak with told me, "You're not going to believe this, Vic, what it did next." And then they go on to tell me about how it tapped on the window or something I've heard who knows how many times. Yeah, in your case, I'm not laughing at you. It's just a relief because eyewitnesses, when they tell me stuff like that, it feels to them like they're the only person in the world who's been made to bear such a horrible experience or such a horrible aspect of having a dogman encounter. But the good news is you are far from the only person to experience something like that. No, tons and tons of people. That's the great news. Tons and tons of people just like you have experienced that, and they haven't come to any harm. That's just another way. Like I said, these guys are masters at getting a rise out of eyewitnesses. They know how to push our buttons, and it did that. The tapping on your window was done with the sole intent of getting a response out of you. That's all it was. It's no different than why the playground bully picks on this kid over here. You've got all these other kids on the playground. Why does that playground bully pick on that kid right there, time after time? Because he knows he's going to get a response out of this kid right here. Well, the dogmen you've encountered, they're bullies. So it's unfortunately expected that they know they can get a response out of you. And it's understandable why they have been getting a response out of you, Patrick, but that's why they're doing what they're doing. Most definitely don't pull out a gun and try blasting a dogman through a window that it's tapping on. You talk about out of the frying pan and into the fryer. Don't make that mistake. So, yeah, the best thing you can do is what you've been doing. Don't push it. I mean, I hate the fact that they're doing these things to push your buttons, but don't allow that to cause you to take actions that you're really going to probably come to regret. So, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. The tapping, this is the first I've heard of it from you. Please don't make that mistake because that wouldn't be any good. The whole phrase "don't start none, there won't be none." Well, unfortunately, Dogman, they start it, but if you try to do certain things back, you can cause a lot more harm than good. So that's what I'm getting at here. But do you have any other questions for me about all this I might be able to answer for you?
Well, the point you make about the bullies, I mean, that it does make a lot of sense. Just my whole life, like growing up, like I was never really one to be bullied, but like whenever, like I was always the type of person to always step in when someone's being bullied because I don't like bullies, and I've always been the type to push back. And again, they haven't been, nothing's tapped on any windows that I know of. But I, God forbid, I just hope they don't try and cross that line and come think that it's. I just want to say I believe in when things happen, you have two options. You can either react, which is typically an emotional response, or you can choose to respond, and that's with a clear head of thinking. And I've always been of that mind, and I just hope they don't you know escalate anything because I'm not I don't really not want to be pushed around, and because I'll kind of the type to push back, and I don't want to, but uh, I just I'll do my best to keep a clear mind when it comes to dealing with these things. 'Cause I know they're on a whole different plane. It's not just like dealing with another person. I do realize that, and plus I've got family here, and we have a whole community right here. My neighbors, I got neighbors on both sides of me, within 30 feet on each side, and there's actually someone that I saw comment on the previous episode, named Tracy Collins, and she actually lives here in the same community as I do. So if she's listening, just hi Tracy. But yeah, I just yeah, no, I just don't think it'd be a good idea for anybody if it got any further. And again, we don't know what they like to do, and maybe it just saw me and decided to come tearing after me. I don't know. And I know there was one person that asked if I was marked, and sometimes it seems to be like a recurring theme with some people who have these encounters that they tend to have a whole lot more than one. And just keep our distance and just keep our cool. And I'd rather go back to where they're just peeking at you from behind a bush, unbeknownst to us, and they just go back to that again. Because when I used to want to see one really badly, a couple of years ago, before I seen my first one, I really regret that now at this point. So yeah, I really did not want to. I wasn't expecting that. That's for sure. Oh, there's something. There's actually some. I hear something right now. Actually, it sounds like it's coming along the fence line. Shine a light on that. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I think I'm gonna take this back up closer to the front porch, and I'll get up off this back fence line.
Hope it's just.
But yeah. Now I haven't seen too many deer out here. I've seen a couple tracks, but I think I'm more likely to see a hog before I see a deer around this area.
Patrick, I'm so glad you revealed the fact that, and a lot of guys are this way, the fact that you hate being bullied so much. So glad you brought that up. If you don't remember anything from the conversation tonight, except for what I'm about to tell you, then I still think it's going to be a good thing. What I'm getting at here is in Africa, when it comes to lions, their favorite prey animal is a warthog. And the reason for that is warthogs, because of their mental makeup, warthogs always come back. There's a saying in Africa, warthogs always come back. Well, depending on what type of a fight, what type of a battle you're in, that can be admirable. But again, depending on the type of fight and battle you're in, it can also be a very foolish thing to do. More warthogs are killed than any other prey animal that lions predate on because of their tendency to fight when they should tuck tail and run. So if you don't remember anything, like I said, other than this is why I'm saying it would still be a good thing. Yeah, you're talking about trying to fight a battle you have no hope of winning. Now, it sounds like you see the flaws in trying to blast one through the window and everything. But when your emotions get going, you might be, if that's how you're already wired, that just makes you that much more likely to pull the trigger and do something like that.
Yeah,
So
I don't want to be the warthog. Yeah, you're right. I don't want to be. Thank you for painting that picture. That's that'll stick. Actually, thank you for saying that, because yeah, the warthog would push back and run right back into the jaws. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that. Actually, it's a very fine wisdom.
Oh, you're welcome. Just telling you like it is. Yeah, I can understand. This is really a difficult situation you're in. I get it. But when you're worked up, you've got family to protect, or you think you've got family to protect. But if the dogman doesn't have it in its head to actually try to harm you or your family, then that's moot. That's a moot point. But it might seem like that's the case. And because it seems that way, then you might decide to come back at the quote unquote lion. But yeah, even when you're worked up, please don't make that mistake. Please don't come back. Tuck tail and don't fall into that trap, because like I said, that's when you can't win. Now, having said all that, do you have any other questions I might be able to answer for you?
Have you heard of anybody like having I've listened to pretty much every episode, so I mean, I guess I would say I've heard of some people having amicable relationships with some of these creatures. And I'm sure that's a very, very rare cases. That being said, I'm not, I'm more in the camp of, like, the one story where the kid goes out with his three uncles with the dogs, and they go out to that farmhouse and they put the traps underneath the windows and they blast them and spread the body parts across the field to let anything else in the area know not to come around. Like, I'm more in that camp. But you know, if I see something like this when I'm taking my dogs out, 'cause I take my dogs out every night, usually at least once, or I take them out at least 2 to 3 times a day, but I always take them out again at night. I know they're at the door right now, sitting there looking at me. But I don't really feel like I'm feeling up to going back to that same spot. I'm not sure where I'm going to go now, because that was right up the street and very accessible. But if I'm out there walking with my dogs and I'm unarmed and something like this appears and my dogs do take notice and they take notice of us, what would be the best response? Just to haul butt back to the car, or just...
Nope. The best response is to treat it just like you would a big aggressive dog that you encountered. If you ran into a grizzly, for example, out in the woods, treat it the same way. Don't run. Don't curl up into a ball either. Just try to make sure you don't make eye contact with it. Don't turn your back on it and abscond. Get out of the area in a controlled fashion. so that you can still monitor where it's at. If it's coming towards you, you want to be in a position where you can actually know that. So, yeah, don't be confrontational. Don't be quote unquote cowardly in its eyes. Just try to get away from the area in a controlled fashion, in as controlled of a fashion as possible. And I mean, 99.99% of the time, you should be just fine. Now, like I said, I'm never going to say that dogmen are safe to be around, and there's a zero chance that you could run into a dangerous one, because there are dangerous ones out there. But for the aforementioned reasons, it's clear that is really a once in a blue moon type situation when you actually do have a situation where a person runs into a dangerous one. So, and I know that there are people out there that I've gotten tons of messages over the years. Well, you can't speak to the people who are slaughtered by these things, Vic. And that's true. But I'll tell you what I have done. I've spoken with 4,000 or more people who are in situations where they could have been wiped off the face of the earth, but they weren't. Even though the dogman had every possible chance to do that, they didn't come to harm. So that right there tells me that these guys are not wired to do that. It just boils down to, are they wired to rip people apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself or not? And if I've spoken with that many people who are allowed to leave an encounter without so much as a scratch, the answer is they clearly are not wired to rip us apart, to harm us as soon as the opportunity presents itself. That's something that you really need to try to keep in mind. Again, I know it's so hard to do when you get caught up on how terrifying these things are to look at and to be around and everything. I get it. It's not easy at all, but these guys, they take us off our game. They're so good at taking us off our game. That's why it's so hard to deal with a dogman encounter, to think about the possibility of having another one in a situation where they might be around your home. Does this all make sense?
It does. It does. I mean, I love all nature's creatures, and I'm very good, especially with canines. I'm good with all animals, but especially canines. And I, I mean, that would be awesome if we can have an amicable and peaceful, even positive relationship with these things. I mean, are they wired to kill us? No, because I mean, there wouldn't be so many people that you talk to. But are they wired to be friendly? Like a canine pal like we have with our dogs. I don't think they're like that either. But it's a shame and all and terrifying at the same time.
Oh, they're definitely not wired to be amicable, affable, or anything like that. No, they're just pains in the butt. So, yeah, I'll never say that they are either. There's nothing good about dogmen. There's nothing good at all about these guys. They're just a huge pain in the butt. But they're here. There's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is just deal with it. If you have an encounter, all you can do is just deal with it the healthiest way you can. And hopefully that's good enough where you can get through and get by and live your life without being compromised too much by it. It's totally understandable. Like I told you, Patrick, you've been affected the way you have. You never asked to have these experiences, especially the one you had last night. It was just forced upon you. So now all you can do is just pick up the pieces, try to remember what's real, and not let your imagination, due to how frightening these things are to look at and to be around, all you can do is your best to not let that knock you off your game and start thinking about these guys in ways that have nothing to do with reality. Again, is there a possibility that a dog man could harm you, kill you? Yeah, it's totally possible. There have been several people who have been killed by these things, but the odds definitely are in your favor. So, yeah, please do the best you can to remember that. Well, having said that, Patrick, I see it's already an hour and 5 minutes that we've been doing this. You're already not feeling very good, so I'm about to wrap this thing up. But before I do that, do you have any closing comments you want to put out there for us?
Um, well, when I first saw that one a couple years ago, like I, I felt like I was going crazy, and that I felt like I was alone. I'm sure plenty of people who've had experiences with them probably felt the same way, and it really mean, becoming hyper vigilant to like almost patrolling like the neighborhood area to try and keep people safe, you know, and wanting to shout from the treetops, that these things are here, and sure, there's probably some people would scoff and laugh at you, but I don't know, just be aware and almost even when not being so aware of is also almost like was it ignorance is bliss? It feels like because I mean I wanted to see one so bad, and when I saw that first one, it was almost like an answer to oh, you want to see one? Well, here I am, and I kind of almost did wish that upon myself. Certainly last night, that was not expected by any means, and yeah, I don't know. I just keep myself from going out of my mind in the meantime, and but you're right. I'll remember that warthog uh, depiction you so well put. Pushing back. Warthogs keep coming back, and they come right back to the jaws of the lion, and I certainly don't want to be that. So,
I'm
but
glad you know that, and I hope you do remember that. I'm sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you there.
I was just gonna say that was very well put. That was and that's a great analogy. That was spot on.
Well, it's the truth. It's the truth. I was planning to get out of here, but before I do, I want to share something with you that I think is going to help. There are 7 magic words. I don't think I shared this with you in our first conversation there, or even our second one. There are 7 magic words I want you to remember there, Patrick. And those 7 magic words are, but they didn't want to hurt me.
That's right.
But
I remember
they didn't want to hurt me. I get it, how terrifying these things are and how fast they can move, how strong they are. I mean, ripping trees out of the ground at times. I mean, they're just ridiculously over equipped. I get it. They're terrifying as all get out to be around. And to have one focusing all of its attention on you and to be at close range, yeah, that's just absolutely too much. But like I said, if you get out of an encounter with a dog man or dog men, such as is in your case, without a scratch, especially looking at the encounters that you've had where they've been more than close enough to be able to dispatch you if they wanted to, it's because they didn't want to hurt you. It's because they didn't want to harm you. Perfect example. You have a guy contact you, tell you, Vic, you know what? 20 years ago, I used to be a true nature nut. I used to live butted right up against this huge national forest. And when I would get bored, I'd go for nice long walks in that national forest. Well, one day I was off work, didn't have anything to do. I was bored out of my mind. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go for a nice long walk in the forest. So I made a sandwich and got some other stuff together, got some water, put it into a container, put all that stuff into a backpack, threw the backpack over my shoulder, headed out the back door, down the steps, across the backyard, and into the forest. Well, I'd been walking for maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so, Vic, when all of a sudden this giant werewolf looking thing jumps out from behind this tree. It was blacker than black, and it had to be at least every bit of 10 feet tall. And it's just right in front of me. I mean, we're talking well within grabbing distance. And it's so big, it's just looming over me and is reaching out for me with these huge clawed hands. The talons had to be 4 or 5 inches long, and it would bend over and snap in my face and snap and then straighten up and then bend over and snap. It was just horrible. And it had these 3-4 inch long lower canines in its huge jaws. And I never will forget, it had these huge globulets of slobber that were running out from between its bottom teeth and hitting the dirt. Pitter pat, pitter pat. I never will forget the sound of that. The slobber globulets hitting the dirt right in front of my feet, Vic. It was horrible. Well, yeah, sounds like it must have been horrible. What did you do? Well, I did the only thing I could think of. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I peed my pants and I collapsed in a heap at his feet and curled up into the fetal position. Well, yeah, I can understand you doing that. But when you did that, what did it do? Oh, he just turned around and walked off into the trees. I never saw him again. Wow. Now, you want to talk about a dangerous, deadly, monstrous killing machine that'll rip you apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself. Here, this dog man had you dead nuts to rights. What did it do? It didn't give you so much as a scratch. It never harmed a single hair in your head. It walked off into the trees and disappeared. You never saw it again. You try doing that. You try collapsing right in front of a mountain grizzly bear or a tiger, and you come back and tell me how that works for you. They'll kill you because they are killers. But that dog man approved with his own actions that he didn't want to hurt you. So for the past 20 years, you told me about, Mike, that you can't sleep right, you can't eat right. You've lost all these jobs because of all these mental issues you're dealing with because of that encounter. It's because, and it's not your fault, but it is because you've assessed that encounter incorrectly. All this time you've had it in your mind that somehow you got away or you were in the presence of this deadly, mindless, monstrous killing machine that had it in its head. It wanted to rip you apart. Well, it proved with its own actions, it didn't want to do that. So, Mike, Patrick, there are 7 magic words that I want you to remember. And from now on, anytime you start thinking about your encounters, Patrick, in ways that have nothing to do with reality, I want you to recall them and say them out loud. And those 7 magic words are, again, I'll say them again, but they didn't want to hurt me. Again, they proved that with their own actions. Now, I should ask you to qualify when it comes to this encounter you had last night. How sure are you that if it really wanted to get to you, even though it had that compromised back leg, that you were close enough to your car, you said it was 30 feet behind you, that there's no way it could have actually gotten to you if it really wanted to get to you that time? Again, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's been around your house, but that night, as far as that night goes, how sure are you that it couldn't have gotten to you no matter what?
I'm pretty sure if it kept on going as I'm trying to peel off, it would have been at the car, reaching in and trying to grab at me and my dogs. And you're right, but it didn't want to hurt me, and I don't understand why. I mean, they've got all the tools to do so. It just, I, that's one of the hardest things to wrap your mind around. Just after already wrapping your mind around the fact that these things exist, then for them just to do that and then just turn around and walk away like that, just it makes no sense to me, and it's just crazy. And I guess I'll be hard pressed to to forget that. I mean, I don't. I'll make sure I keep that in mind, and that and the warthog analogy. Yeah, I don't get it.
Please do keep all these things in mind. It's going to take time for you to really process all this. You didn't really need this much help until this encounter happened last night. So it's going to take time for all this to sink in. But please do just kick it over in your head time and time again to try to let it sink in. And once it has sunk in, and especially you remember those 7 magic words to snap you back to reality, then you'll be in a situation where you can deal with all this in a healthy way. I know you can do it. It seems like an insurmountable goal, but you can definitely do it. You really can. It's just going to take time.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we can learn. I'm just really thankful that my kids haven't been terrified or anything. I mean, I'm sure we talking about anything spooky because we like to play. We go on these scary walks in the woods at night sometimes with our friends, and because we enjoy it and take a spotlight or something like that. And I know I'm usually armed, but we have our dogs just to enjoy that the range of emotions that we have going through it, and everyone's always excited and happy and feeling good afterwards. It's makes me second guess that choice of doing that now after these encounters. You know, I don't know if I want to do that so much now, but I don't want it to stop me from doing the things that I love and being nature's. You know, that's what brings me. My constant. My mind is doesn't like to shut off, but when I'm in nature and if I'm out there in the calm, quiet, or if I'm fishing, like those things, what helps bring me peace and helps me relieve the stress. And I don't want it to take that away from me. I'm not going to let it.
Well, that's good. That's really good. Remember, you hold all the cards. You control how much all this affects you and how much it doesn't. So I know it's easier said than done, but you are in total control of that. So right now, you've been knocked so far off base because of the shock and the terror of what you've experienced that it's expected. You're not going to do well at keeping the chaff from affecting you. But over time, as you can process all these things we've talked about, it should get easier and easier. So please remember, you're never going to be alone in this. You've always got help. If you ever need help with this in the future, all you have to do is just reach out to me and let me know. And you already know I'll be there for you. So please never forget that.
I appreciate that, Vic.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, having said that, thanks again so much for coming back on there, Patrick. And remember, you've always got help if you ever need it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, easier said than done, but try to have a good night.
I will.
All right, great. I'll talk to you later.
Good night, everybody.
All right, that's another one in the books. If you've had a Dogman encounter that you need help with, please go to dogmanencounters.com, submit a report, and if you do that, then I'll be more than happy to schedule a phone consultation with you. That way I can find out what happened to you as far as your encounter goes, or encounters might go, and we'll take it from there. If you want to be a guest on the show, then we can always do that, but of course, there's never any pressure to do so. But having said that, thanks again so much for listening, everyone. I really appreciate it. And of course, have a great night.